So welcome back, everyone. My favorite subject, family law.
It's everybody's favorite subject, let's be honest.
It can be, absolutely. Susan Pintel, she is the owner of Pintel Family Law. Welcome back to the show. We've been on now several times. We said we got you down to 8 these now.
Yes.
And I want you to tell first a little bit about yourself and then what we're going to talk about today. Listen up, everyone.
Okay, so my name is Susan Pintel. I have been doing family law in the Phoenix metro area for 18 years now. So that's usually divorce with or without children. It's custody matters, whether it's a new case. Sometimes you're having to establish paternity. Sometimes you already are on the birth certificate, but you have to establish through the court system your legal rights for legal decision making, parenting time. We have child support with that. We also do modification of prior orders. And today we're gonna, wait, I should also say that's all the really heavy stuff. What I call the happier stuff is when I get called upon to do like a prenuptial agreement for people that are going into a marriage.
The smart ones?
Well, yes, because you want to really get an idea of what you're going to be doing during your marriage in relation to what community property law is in Arizona. And sometimes people make those awful mistakes not realizing what the impact is because they have a complete misconception. But today we're going to talk, because I've been telling you I do solely family law. And that's true, but today we're going to dip our toe into the world of juvenile law, and we're going to talk about abandonment and severance of parental rights, termination of parental rights, and what that means and why I do some of that sometimes.
It happens.
It does?
It does. Okay, so let's talk about the termination of parental rights and what that really means.
Yeah, so as a parent, you have constitutional rights to your child. When you have your rights terminated, that is exactly what it says. You have no longer any legal rights to that child. So you are literally persona non grata. You don't have legal rights. That is no longer a legally recognized bond or relationship that you have. This is not something that you modify. This is not something that you can undo. This is not something to be taken lightly. And that's what I really want to stress to people, because in family law, I have a lot of times, and I get it, finances are what they are. I've had a lot of people, both men and women, come to me and say, look, I don't want to pay child support, or if the person just agrees to stop, doing X, Y, and Z, I'll just give up my rights. And it's not something that I take lightly, and it's certainly not something that the court system takes lightly, because you cannot undo it.
That's scary.
It is.
Once you die. So people do silly things.
Sometimes.
Sometimes they do, and I know something that happened to someone I know, if it's okay,
Yeah.
that their son was dealing in drugs and had ammunition there with a 2-year-old. That is not acceptable. And he lost his rights.
Absolutely. So what you're actually referring to is most likely somebody called the Department of Child Safety. The Department of Child Safety is, charged with going out there and making sure that children are not being abused or neglected. When you report into DCS, it is an anonymous process. There are some mandated reporters. You have teachers, you have other individuals like psychologists, psychiatrists, doctors, who, if they have a good faith belief to feel that a child is being abused or neglected, they must report it to DCS. And what that triggers an investigation. And when DCS goes out, and in the case that you just described, they must have found something in the home that was indicative of abuse or neglect, and they have the right to then go in and make the children temporary wards of the state, put them in foster care, put them in in homes where there are temporary either group homes or individuals who foster these children. Preference really is for a relative, but sometimes you just can't find a relative to do that. I'm not talking about the Indian Child Welfare Act. That has its own set of rules, so I'm just talking broad strokes for the general population. And then what I will say to you is that that really does take a lot, because it is through clear and convincing evidence that the state has to prove that there was abuse or neglect. So that is where I'm talking about this as a private attorney. I don't get into those cases. That is really strictly speaking for the Department of Child Safety, because they have some steps that they, put the parents through some paces, right? They try to rehabilitate the parents. I'm not using the proper legal terminology right now, but they really do try to assist and make the parent a better parent and make sure that they can, reunite the child with the parent. And if they cannot, then that is where, a trial takes place and those parental rights may end up being terminated.
So being that your family law.
Yeah, so how do I get involved in this, right?
I was going to just ask you, why did you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I want to talk about it because definitely there is more of a crossover now, more than ever. I have quite a few clients right now, and I thought this would be a good topic precisely because of that. So let me give you the scenario. I have a situation where I've gone into a family law case. Okay, it is a custody situation, and it's either enforcement or modification, and we've gone through the family court system. And my client says, Susan, the other parent just didn't show up for trial today, okay? And that's not surprising. I haven't gotten child support for at least 7 months, and this parent hasn't shown up regularly for the past year. And that's why I wanted to modify the parenting time, and that's why I wanted to modify the child support. And, I just got married a couple of months ago, and my new husband is kind of saying, hey, do we have to kind of keep going like this, or is there a solution? And the solution could potentially be if you are in a situation where the other parent has not maintained regular contact with the child. It's really legally it's 6 months or more. Okay, that's prima facie, right? If you've not had 6 months or more of regular contact with your child. You've had no phone calls, no letters, no texts, no FaceTime, no communication, and you have not paid child support, then the other parent says, you know what, I may want to talk to a private attorney about looking at severing parental rights to the other parent who has now, quote, abandoned the child, right? So that's where I get involved because I don't go looking for these cases. They stem out of some of my family law matters where I've gone to court, and then the parent's like, how many more years of this do I really have to go through? And then we talk about it, and I don't mention it to everybody because it is a very serious step, and not everybody qualifies.
Mm-hmm. Well, there are a lot of people, though, who I bet who are relating to this, because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there, I'm sorry to say this, of people that don't pay their child support, that do not talk to their children. My ex-husband, his father, when he was 2, left, but goodbye. Never heard from him again.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot more common than people understand. And again, why is this not happening more? And I'm not really saying that it should happen more. Please understand that, but it doesn't happen as often because again, not everybody qualifies. And what do I mean by that? I mean, nobody's perfect, and until your child turns 18, I mean, that parent who's absent for 7 months because of reasons that are only known to that person, they come back. And to segue into what your prior guest was saying, I do see a lot of people that have drug addiction, that have mental health issues, and they're trying to sort their own lives out, and so they kind of take a hiatus from parenting is how they view it, and then they come back in. So it's
which is a beautiful thing, actually. It's not bad.
It can be a good thing. It can be a good thing, and so I'm going to talk.
They got better.
Yeah, it did.
Maybe they didn't want to be around the kid while they weren't.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's really hard about family law is that most often parents will use that against the other parent, which is, again, I'm really seeing that effect on a lot of the cases. I'm a very big proponent for co-parenting. A lot of people, unfortunately, don't do as well as they should in that arena. And so when you do have the proper circumstances, and I mean somebody who really has not been able to overcome those substance abuse issues or those mental health issues. And now we're talking about a long gap. And so every attorney is different. I can't speak to what other attorneys do, but for me, if I have a client who says, hey, Susan, I have the other parent who's been absent for 1.5 years, we're going on 2 years now. Okay, let's talk about what some other options are instead of, keep going on this kind of like circular pattern.
Right, and it's only fair too, when you think about it. Your phone number is 480-397-2261. You can also text her at 520-355-4483. You do a free 30-minute phone consultation, and you can check her out on her website, which is Pintel, Pintel, law.com. law.com. So before we go to a break, did you want to say anything else really? I know it's hard because I know you.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's why I would say, give me a call, do a half-hour consultation. I'll be really upfront with you and honest about whether or not that's even something that you should be contemplating, and I'll give you the why and why not, and we'll get into that a little bit when we get back.
So we're going to go to a break. We come back, we're going to talk further, and I will say that this also applies to the, if it's not you, it's someone else that you know. Please, that's what networking is all about. That's what I love about the show. Again, her phone number is 480-397-2261, PentelLaw.com.
Yeah, it's not for everybody, and I don't go around recommending it. It's a very serious, irrevocable step. It has, pros and cons to it. And I think it can be, just like anything else, used properly, or it can be misused. And that's
I
why
think people who are hateful
Yes.
in the relationship,
Yes.
that's where they do it.
Yes.
And they think I don't think they realize how that if it's irrevocable. That's,
and it has a really awful impact on the child who is being told all kinds of things about why, mom or dad didn't want to be here anymore for you. And so that, talking about trauma, that's where you gotta weigh what's really in the best interest of your child, not just what you want to do because you don't want the other parent in your life anymore.
it's interesting because I'm listening to you. My ex-husband's father left when he was 2. My ex-husband's mother of his daughter left her daughter.
Wow.
That's why I became her stepmother at the age of 7.
Yeah. I mean,
Abandonment.
There's undoubtedly a lot of trauma, and that's why I'm saying when people come to me, they come to me all the time. I've had judges really in family court where, opposing party or even my client will say, well, okay, I'll just give up my rights then. And the judge will, often say, sir or ma'am, first of all, it's not that simple. Family court's not the place to do it, but even if you were to go to juvenile court, you probably wouldn't get it on these facts. The system is not meant to just, hand out these severance, left and right.
Serious allegation.
Yeah, it's definitely not to get out of paying child support. And in fact, when you sever somebody's rights, sometimes the child support obligations don't go away. So if that's why people are thinking of doing it, I would say that's not what this is meant to accomplish. And so don't do that, because ultimately you are causing a trauma to your child. And it
doesn't go away.
It doesn't go away, yeah.
I'm telling you, my stepdaughter is 45, maybe even 48, okay? Not that long ago, maybe 2 years ago, we were looking at family, it was a Mother's Day thing. And guess what?
Yeah.
Ran out of the house, screaming, crying, because it all came back.
That trauma doesn't go away. And I've been doing this for 18 years now, and I'm old enough personally to have clients that I've had, come back for 10 years. And my first trial, the client that I had my first trial with, his children did not talk to him for 8 years because they thought that he was the problem. And it took until year number 9 for one of his children to become a parent and say, wow, this is a lot harder, right? And not everybody tells the story, right? And so, he's just now establishing his relationship with his children again because of everything that they went through a divorce. Can you imagine what, legally taking somebody out?
Oh, man. I didn't know it was irreversible.
Yeah.
So welcome back, everyone. This is a serious topic.
It is a very serious topic, and like I said, I get people who call me. We do the half-hour consultation for free precisely because I want to tell people that, this is not what you think it is. You're not going to be able to get past the judicial muster. Your case is going to fail. That's what an honest attorney should be telling you. It's not to get out of paying child support. It's not out of the inability to come up with your arrears. You have to think about the fact that this is a child's life. I mean, you brought a child or children into this world. You are what that little person knows as mom or dad. And I'm going to share a story with you because we focused on the negative. And before I get to the second part, because we talked about abandonment, and I want to talk about some of the defenses against abandonment, right? Because it's really misused a lot. Like you said before, spiteful people say, hey, I don't want my ex, or I don't want the mother or the father, I was never married, and they're just a pain in my behind. and I just don't want them in my life. And that's okay. You got to find a way to co-parent, but you have to think about this child or these children. But before I get too depressing, I do want to do the flip side, which is I did have a client come to me about 11 years ago now, and he said, hey, look, I've been living with this woman, and she has 3 children, and the first child was about 4 years old, and the second child was about 3, and the young one is just a baby, and I've asked her where the dad is, and she just kind of says, oh, he's not in the picture. And I've been with this woman, and I've been raising these children as if they were my own. And I thought, my God, I mean, that's really commendable. I mean, who does that, right? And he said, and the reason I'm calling you, Susan, is because, so she just disappeared, literally. I mean, I don't know where she went. I contacted the police. They said, okay, we got, I don't do criminal, I don't know about that. But the point was, this man had gone about 6 months without being able to trace where this woman went, the mother of these children, okay, the woman that he was living with. And after about year number 1 came and went, he said, I'm having all kind of pushback from the school. I'm not a legal parent. I'm not a guardian. I'm not recognized. And they're kind of like, hey, where's mom? And I kind of put it off for a while. Now I can't put it off any longer. What do I do? And I said, okay, well, you're not the parent of these children. You're not the father. Okay, there's no biological connection, correct? And he said, no, I was living with this woman. I've raised these kids.
She's gone.
So I said, okay, well, we're going to have to establish some in loco parentis rights for you, okay, which means, standing in place of the parent. And this is like, you guys, this is not the normal case, okay, so please don't think that you can pattern your case after this, because it was quite extraordinary, which is why I'm sharing it, and it's very positive. So we went to family law, we established in loco parentis rights, which means in place of the parent. We got him legal decision making, we got him parenting time, we explained to the court that mom was missing. And he had done, skip traces, we'd gotten a private investigator. Mom was nowhere to be found. Even her own parents, we haven't heard from her. We don't know what happened. And this is awful, but we checked the morgues. We checked, she's not dead. We just don't know where she is. Long story short, we get that order from family court, and I say to him, this is probably not enough, right? I'm not too comfortable. You just have legal decision making, parenting time, and child support rights. Okay, I really want you to be able to adopt these children. Okay, so we had to go in and transferred to juvenile court, right? And I had to basically formally sever mom's parental rights so that she couldn't come back in the picture, because now by this point it had been 3.5 years since this mother had disappeared from these children's lives, and the baby would not have known this woman at all, right? And so if she would have come back, Carol, this is why it's so serious, if she would have come back with the status of mom, my client would have been in an endless loop of custody battle until the kids turned 18. And he didn't want to do that, especially with mom having been absent for 3.5 years. So we went to juvenile court, and I was able to terminate mom's rights on the abandonment basis, okay? And I was able to clear the way for him to basically adopt these children.
And that's cool.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So I mean, that's why I'm saying it's a very specific, limited circumstance. It's not like
it's on the ID channel.
Yeah, I mean, don't start calling attorneys saying, hey, how do I terminate my
No, but it is a good thing out of
yeah.
that. First of all, that man was a wonderful man,
Yeah.
a big heart,
Yeah.
to be able to do that. I mean, a lot of mothers, I became the mother of a child, but for men,
Yeah.
that's not very typical.
No, and that's why
it's a beautiful thing.
It is, and I wanted to tell you because that is the exceptional positive aspect of terminating parental rights. You free up the road to have an adoption. A lot of people, like you said, they misuse it, and I just want to make everybody really clear. I'm not going to stereotype anybody. I'm not going to point a finger at women or men. What I have seen, however, more traditionally is you have a situation where there's blame all around. People have come in and out. They haven't been the best people. Nobody's perfect. But again, that man wants to be a parent to that child, and that woman is saying, I really can't stand you and I don't want you in my life anymore, and they just don't make it work. And so I also want to bring up that I see a lot of women, I don't represent these women, but I see a lot of women that file abandonment charges, right, in juvenile court saying, hey, they've abandoned the child. And I get called in a referral from like a former client or whatever that says, hey, can you help my cousin or my coworker or whatever? And I'm like, okay, sure, let's talk. And some of these men are like, look, Susan, I have tried to call, I have tried to visit, I have done everything within my power, and she's still blocking me, and she won't let me talk to my child, she won't let me see my child, she's blocked her number, she's moved houses, she doesn't update her address. And these are all cases that, there is a family court order in place, and she's just not allowing the parenting time. So now that woman has moved beyond, and I tell the man, look, it's not about enforcing parenting time anymore in family court, it's about defending yourself because you've been served with an action in juvenile court. And so what I tell him is like, okay, well then, to stop the severance based on abandonment, then I need you to get me the text messages and the emails and the phone records and everything that you have done that shows the court that you have made efforts, continuous, consistent, constant efforts to maintain that relationship with that child or children, and that the mother or the other parent has basically blocked you. Okay, I cannot stress enough that if the parent who goes to the court saying, hey, the other parent has abandoned my child, you got to go with clean hands, because if I am able to prove that, no, you've actually blocked your phone number, you've changed your address, you've sent back the child support payments, you've basically done everything in your power to stop that relationship, then I'm going to help that person prevail against a severance action. And that's why I'm saying you just can't go in and say, I just want this person out of my life. That's not what this is about. It's not about you and dad, you and mom. It's about
You
the
thought
children.
that family law was easy.
Yeah, it's, but
there's things that happen.
Yeah.
And it's, I think,
yeah.
I'm just gonna say, I don't know if this was right or not, Susan, it's based on anger.
Oh gosh, a lot of people act out on based on anger, and you
Do terrible
make
things.
awful decisions, and that's why I'm saying, I remember my parents telling me, don't ever act out of anger or fear, because then you're acting out of emotion and you're not thinking things through. And that's again why the court system says, look, even if you get through because it's a two-pronged test, Carol, like even if there is no defense, like even if you show me that this man has not maintained that normal parental bond with that child or children, you've proven through clear and convincing evidence there's no defense, there's an abandonment ground. Okay, that's not the end, right? Now the court has to say, but if I'm going to sever that other parent's rights, what's the benefit to the child, or what's the detriment if I do, right? And so that's where I say people miss the boat on this whole process, because if you're doing it out of spite or anger or trying to get a fast one on the other parent, the judge is not going to let you do it. I do see it work when, again, parent has been absent for 1 or 2 or 3 years. This other parent has now moved forward, they've gotten married, they have a new spouse, and that spouse says, hey, I really want to officially adopt that child. That's great. So that's the benefit, right? Let's sever that missing parent, that parent who abandoned their child or children. Let's sever their rights, okay? Because now we're making room for this step parent to bring meaning to that child's life, because they've been raising them anyway. So let's have them adopt that child, and now you create that legal bond.
It's wonderful, really.
Yeah, it can be wonderful.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I know. I think it's awesome, because I know what I've seen.
Yeah.
And I think the one thing that I'm hearing more than anything, first, especially in the world that we live today, make copies of all your texts.
God, yeah. I mean, there's lots of programs. I have so many clients who say, hey, Susan, my phone died, or I switched the phone. Okay, well, then I'm sorry to say this, we're SOL. I can't help you if you don't have the proof. And it's kind of sad. I tell people, you're going to have to kind of memorialize all these things, because one day soon, especially my repeat clients in family law, I say, you got to keep this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because it's...
If you can't find, I don't know if they can do that. I must be somewhat forensic.
My clients come up with all these wonderful programs to, download text and put them in a really beautiful, organized way, and I think it's phenomenal for that.
Well,
Yeah.
What are your final words today?
Yeah, my final words are, if you have a parent who's been missing for at least, 1 or 2 years or more, hasn't paid child support, the child says, I don't even know who this person is, and you're married to somebody else now, and your new spouse is saying, hey, wouldn't it be great if I had legal rights to the child? That would be an appropriate scenario. Feel free to reach out, and I'll walk you through if, you have a case or not.
Have a consultation. It's 30 minutes and it's free. The phone number to call is 480-397-2261. You can also text her at 520-355-4483. It's Pintel, Pintel, law.com.